Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on the Standing Stones bracelet component using beads other than the nibbit beads and the 12mm Rivoli. Now the way this came about was I posted this bracelet, after I presented my collection, and many of you who didn't get the collection wanted to know what can I use other than the nibbit bead. And so I thought about it, and I hadn't come up with anything, and then I read the comments, and I always read every single comment that you leave under a video. So please always leave comments. I learned so much from your comments, and I get inspired from your comments. So somebody commented that they made the component using Tila beads. So here's one with Tila beads, and I just think it's so pretty. What a great idea. Did not think of the Tila bead. I did have to adjust the beading a little bit to get a nice tight fit, and that's why I'm going to show you the component today. But it's a beautiful, I think beautiful replacement for the, I love this white one, for the nibbit bead if you don't have the nibbit bead, or you didn't want to use a nibbit bead. And I've also used a 14mm Rivoli here, not a 12mm. So in the collection you have a 12mm and you have the nibbit. So this is a 14mm and a Tila bead. So go through your Tila beads. I mean, I went through so many of my Tila beads. That's why I made all these different colors, because I had so many Rivolis, 14mm Rivolis, and so many Tila beads that go well together, and I haven't really used them much. So here you go. Here's the component. So I'm going to clear this off, stop talking, and get a materials list going, and we'll get started. Okay, so we're just doing the component here because what I'll do is I'll link the bracelet video in the description box under this video, where you'll learn how to do this component, connect them, putting the clasp on. It's all pretty much the same, so we're just changing the component. So don't forget to click that link after you make your components and go to that video so you can make a bracelet or a necklace or whatever you want to make out of it. So you need a 14mm Rivoli, or several if you're making a bracelet. You need some 3mm fire polish beads, and this is a great way to hit your stash of dollar bead bag 3mm, because we have so many of those. I've got a Tila bead here. I love this color. This has been in my stash for years. 11/0, 15/0, size 10 beading needle. You might need a 12. We are going through some 15s. A stop bead. I'm using 8-pound Fireline black satin. That's all you need to get this component done. So again, don't forget to check the description box below the video for everything you need to make this component, the amounts, and links to, if I can find all these colors, I'll put links to those as well. And the most important link to this bracelet. So if you want to make the bracelet using this Tila bead component, you can. All right, so let's clear this off and get started. Let's get started. So thread your needle with about 30 inches of thread, put on a stop bead, and leave enough of a tail to sew in. So I've picked up and I'm dropping down to my stop bead 2 11/0s, a Tila, 2 11/0s, a Tila, 2 11/0s, a Tila, 2 11/0s, and a Tila. And I just want to show you how I pick it up. So here, there's a flat side and a more bumpy side. I just make sure I pick it up this way all the time. Just make sure you do that, and it will always come out with the bumpy side on, more bumpy side on top, and here's the flatter side on the bottom. So here I have 4 Tilas with 4 groups of 2 11/0s in between. So just drop those down to your stop bead. Okay, so let's make this into a circle. So I'm just going to sew up through all the beads again, like this, just going all the way around. If you can't get them all at once, just do as many as you can, and that's going to make it into, it's going to connect the ends like that. These Tilas are a little bit wonky at the moment. Okay, I'm just going to keep going until I pass my stop bead and my tail thread, like that. Just reinforce it all the way around. So go around and reinforce, and then you're going to exit the bottom hole of a Tila. Okay, so I've done my reinforcing. I'm exiting the bottom hole of a Tila. I'm just going to sew through the top hole of that same Tila bead. Okay, so let's move on. So this is where things could change a little bit. So in the original design with the nibbits, we did an 11/0, a nibbit, and an 11/0 right here. So I'll just do it with the Tila. So here we were exiting here. So we did 11/0, Nibbit 11-0, and we sew through like that. So with the Tila, you can do it this way, or you can do a 15-0 Tila 15-0, depending on the stone. Now I noticed that in some of the stones that I used just the 11-0, like we did with the original design with the Nibbits, and then some I used a 15-0 for that second round. So I did a 15-0 Tila 15-0 here, and that worked. So it really depends on how thick your stone is, how big it is. There's so many different brands of Rivolis now that some of them may not be exactly 14 millimeter, and the thickness of it. Do you see how thick that edge is on there? That compared to a Swarovski could make a difference too. So I'm just going to say if your stone is wider, thicker like that, and you think it's slightly larger than a 14 millimeter, if it, I'm comparing it to, the original Swarovski sizes, then maybe try the 11-0. I'll do the 11-0 with this because I am going to use one of the thicker stones. All right, so you're just going to pick up either your 15-0 Tila 15-0, sew through the top hole of the next Tila, or 11-0 Tila 11-0 through the top hole of the next Tila, and you can do that all the way around. Coming down to my next 11-0 Tila 11-0 or 15-0 Tila 15-0, I'm going to sew through this next Tila. I'm going to go on through the next seed bead and the next Tila like that. That's what it looks like. And just move your thread away from where your tail thread is. You can just reinforce this, and then I want you to come out bottom hole of a Tila like that, and then you're going to sew through the top hole of that Tila you're exiting, and that's going to set you up for the next round of beads. And while you're doing that, you can also sew your tail thread in. You're going to just sew it in through the back here and tie a couple of half hitch knots, and then we'll continue. Okay, next up we're going to pick up two 11-0s, 3 millimeter fire polish and two 11-0s, exiting the top hole of a Tila. I'm going to sew through the top hole of the next Tila. Two 11-0s, fire polish, two 11-0s, sewing through the top hole of the next Tila. Just going to do that all the way around. Okay, coming down to my last two 11-0s, fire polish, two 11-0s, just going to sew through the top hole of the next Tila, and I'm going to advance through that next group of beads, so the two 11-0s fire polish, two 11-0s, and the next Tila. I think that's good. That's where we should be coming out right now. So get that done and we'll continue. Okay, so we're exiting a Tila, and just a note, I did go around again and reinforce. I didn't pull super tight, but I just went around one more time in that last round. And I'm still exiting a Tila. I'm going to pick up four 11-0s, and I'm going to hop over to the next Tila, so skipping this group right here, sewing through this Tila, making sure those beads pop in front like that. I'm just going to pop my stone in like that. It's not going to stay, it's very loose right now. I'm going to pick up four 11-0s. Again, I'm exiting the Tila. I'm just going to hop over to the next one, making sure that those beads go in front. Push them in front if you need to. Your stone will probably pop out like mine does. It sticks to my thumb because I'm pressing so hard on it. I really don't need to. Here you go. So do that two more times and then we'll continue. Coming down to my last four 11-0s. So let me grab those. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to skip this group and sew through the Tila like that. Just holding with my thumb, just going to pull and make sure, see how that sits. Okay, that looks pretty good. So get that done and come back. And well, actually, before we even go, let's just advance our needle. We're coming out of the Tila. Let's advance our needle through the next four 11-0s. Those were the original ones we put on. All right, now we'll continue. Pick up four 15-0s. We're exiting this group of 11-0s. Just sew through the next group of 11-0s. So you want those 15-0s in front of the Tila bead, like that. Four 15-0s through the next 4 15-0s, 4 15-0s, through the next group, 4 15-0s, through the last group of 11-0s, so that we have the completed bezel. That's what it looks like. So what you want to do now is you want to reinforce all the way around, and then meet me back here and we'll finish up. Okay, so we're back and we're all done. I've done all my reinforcing. Now you just want to move this thread. So at this point you're exiting the 11-0s. Let's say you can sew through your Tila and a couple of the 11-0s. You can go through this guy again, and then you can either tie a couple of half-hitch knots, or if you want, you can go in this direction and maybe sew through the Tila around here, and you can reinforce back here if you feel like you need it. I mean, as I said, it really depends on the size of your stone. So don't forget, one, that you may have a 15-0 here instead of the 11-0, and two, don't forget to reinforce that last round, which was that was the 2 11-0s, the fire polish, and 2 11-0s. I did a little reinforcement on that. I didn't pull it super tight, but I just reinforced it to give it shape. If this was a Swarovski Rivoli, then because that was pretty much the only thing that was around back then, and they were so precision cut that any bezel would work for any Swarovski. But the new brands are all different. They're beautiful, but they're just cut differently, so you might have to adjust a little bit and play with it. But I think it's really an opportunity to be creative and have some fun, and I don't know what to do with all of these. I think I might make a necklace. Would that be cool for spring? So anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.